Welcome back to the LCS playoffs, where FlyQuest are now one more win away from making it to Worlds after taking the victory in Game 3.
Yep, welcome back. Did you miss us? I know that we've really developed a long-standing relationship now.
Oh, yeah.
I just hope that it continues to a full set. FlyQuest, of course, are on Series Point. This is huge for them. This would be the organization's first appearance at Worlds. There's just so much behind this series, and you can see it on the Rift with how tense these games are getting for them. They can see it in their eyes. One game left for them. Meanwhile, Cloud9, North America's historically best performing organization at Worlds, also want to get their early ticket punched. Right off the bat, their strategy is going to be, once again, double banning Santorin. No surprises there after the start to the series.
Right. After the start to the series, having to deal with the Lilia, Cloud9 have been first banning that ever since. Now the Graves banned away after seeing what Santorin was able to do on it in the previous game. They can't allow that one to go through. Cloud9 has chosen to be back on the blue side. They're going to first pick the Ezreal yet again. It's going to be Ezreal Yuumi until the sun goes down. Caitlyn's banned away. Set, Olaf, Ballista all banned away. And it looks like Shen will continue to be the sauce for FlyQuest in the top lane as well. A lot of the draft has been largely figured out here in this series, Kobe.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be stubborn in that they feel that both teams feel that they can continue to improve on their play to get these wins. There's so many people, and I included, was like, all right, well, Ezreal Yuumi has scaled. There's no way that they're going to be able to kill the Ezreal Yuumi. Boom. You know, face check into brush or something. Oh, boom, FlyQuest get a flank on him. Boom, they hit a Senna snare on him, and they kill him, and they do it. So you can see it from both perspectives where FlyQuest are like, yes, we can keep killing it. And Cloud9 are like, all right, we're going to play better this time. You're not going to beat us with this composition. You're not going to beat us with the same strategy. Both teams digging in, being stubborn here, and in situations like that where you have a standoff, you go to the advantage of the team that actually has been winning more of the games. So FlyQuest, once again, rack it up. The Volibear, Shen, and Senna, they will have that engaged. Again, they're going to have their global. Cloud9 are happy to get the early Gangplank. Good matchup into Shen once again, though.
And this will be the first time in this series that Santorin plays a repeat champion here. The Volibear was the champion that he was piloting in the game that they lost earlier, game number 2 of the series. We'll see if he can have a better performance here in this game, not accidentally running underneath the tier 1 turret at level 3. That was the tragedy of that game for them last time around. Second half of the bans have come through. LeBlanc and Azir banned away. Cloud9 really respecting how well PowerOfEvil has been playing in this series so far, wanting to give 2 bans towards him. FlyQuest bans out the Akali. They do not want to be dealing with that one again, as well as taking Trundle off the table just like they did last time when they picked Volley.
And some quicker engage this time around. With the Rakan up here for IgNar, it's by far one of his most favorite champions to play. Always puts a lot of high priority on it. And a Rakan with a Shen, suddenly some of the plays where people critique IgNar for going too risky, super deep flanks, deep in enemy territory, trying to find these big game-breaking flanks to win the game. If you have a Shen on top of the Rakan, those become extremely dangerous. That being said, they're really going to have to set up PowerOfEvil. PowerOfEvil, once again, getting counter pick for last. He's got to pick a very high damage scaling mid laner. You know, Corki is an option here that's still left up. Orianna, another option for him. They already have good ball delivery systems, but they go with the Malzahar.
Okay. So Malzahar locked in. This normally isn't the champion that you think of to put your playmaker, like your carry, your pop-off guy on. He's Malzahar's kind of like the mage version of Skarner. He's purple, and you press R on the guy that you want to die, and that's pretty much it. The champion doesn't have a lot of crazy outplay potential. He does make your opponents pay the QSS tax. It's not as vital for Gangplank because eating the oranges does actually get you out of suppressions, but the Malzahar ulti on any target like a Zoe or an Ezreal that is not prepared with a QSS, and remember, a lot of people don't actually know this, Mikhail's Crucible does not work on suppressions. Cleanse does not work on suppressions. QSS and Gangplank oranges are the only thing that's going to get you out of a suppression. So it must be QSS. The Yuumi is not allowed to buy a Mikhail's to get somebody out of trouble. And Malzahar is going to demand that out of Zoe and Ezreal in particular, or he's just going to set up kills.
Yeah, and Zven has done a lot of flashes forward and arcane shifts forward. So Malzahar is a pick that can make him either second guess that playstyle or try to punish it. If he is doing those things, yes, he is probably going to pay the QSS tax and should because the Ezreal Yuumi definitely needs to remain mobile. But I will also say the Malzahar matchup into Zoe, when you have ground targeted things like the silence, when Zoe does ultimate forward, you can land these abilities, and it is easier to hit those. If Malzahar ults Zoe as she ults forward, she still snaps back, but you'll be suppressed when you snap back.
Right. And when she does snap back, the thing is, though, remember, Malzahar's eye beam, the laser thing, doesn't really do the damage. It's the puddle that he creates underneath you. So when Zoe snaps back, she will be taking less damage than she otherwise would because the puddle is still on the ground. So I will be interested to see how well this Malzahar pick works for them. Malzahar is not a champion we've seen a lot of recently.
Yeah. And, you know, he does have the passive for the spell shield, but there's so much poke on Cloud9's team. Once again, they still have the Ezreal, Yuumi, and Zoe, so something's going to knock that passive off.
Yeah, something is going to make sure that he's not getting maximum value out of that, but this is do or die time for Cloud9, man. Can't drop any more games. They clearly have confidence in this Ezreal and Yuumi and Gangplank setup, this powerful disengaged team that can create these zones of control with things like Yuumi ult and Gangplank ult, but they've already lost a couple of games. They've got to get this win here or they're going down to the losers bracket, and it's FlyQuest that'll be going to Worlds. Blaber on the Lee Sin, on that playmaker champion. We'll see if he can get the ball rolling here for these guys. Remember, 2 out of 3 of the games that have been played so far, it's been Blaber dying at level 1 for first blood.
Exactly. We've been hitting on it all series long. You need to keep hitting on it until Cloud9 get their defenses in place. Get those defensive wards down. Watching the entrances here, make sure Santorin and FlyQuest don't make it happen again. That being said, this is not a FlyQuest comp that is super well set up to pull off one of those level 1s. The one thing that you would have to look for whenever there's a Rakan on the enemy team, and especially if it is IgNar, watch the back of the pit to see if IgNar will jump over it. On your screen here, thank you, observers. That's why Blaber is watching the back of the Dragon Pit right now, like a hawk. Obviously, FlyQuest had the Gragas game previously in playoffs where they pulled that exact strategy off. Rakan does the same thing with the W, and Cloud9 are watching their defenses.
Cloud9 making sure that Blaber, it's even in odd games. In the odd games of 1 and 3, Blaber got bopped. And in the even games of 2 and 4, he didn't get bopped at level 1. It's just the rules of League of Legends here today. Is power
just the rules. We don't make them.
Yeah, we're just abiding by those rules watching the game right now. PowerOfEvil and Nisqy having a couple of those early mage auto attack trades where your spell's not much better than your basic auto attack at level 1, so you just sort of slap the guy a little bit. And PowerOfEvil won't have any lane control early on here.
Yeah, Malzahar's struggle early on is very real. I always like to look at Malzahar players early and actually see how many CS they can get, because it's such a struggle with your level 1 spells for Malzahar not helping a whole lot, with it being kind of weak damage over time, and trying to utilize your weaker auto attacks to get the last hits as well. We'll see how much PowerOfEvil can do. Obviously, once you get a couple levels in your abilities for Malzahar, then you get to kind of brainlessly auto push the wave and try and get some space that way to deal with the Zoe. But IgNar makes one of his patented early roams as he pushes up with Turtle, and they just check on bottom river.
And I want to see if Turtle can get up to that insane range on the Senna again. Remember, every 20 stacks gives him 25 extra auto attack range. Last game, he built the rapid fire cannon, which ends up giving him an extra 150 because it's the maximum value the item is allowed to give over. And those rapid fire procs were just coming from all the way across the lane, being able to help poke at these opponents and give FlyQuest those advantages that they needed and have that damage potential they were looking for in the fights. Solo, man, he must He must just really be used to playing this this Shen versus Gangplank matchup by now. It's not a fun matchup. It's not an easy job, but hey, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, man, practice your barrel timing for killing off those Gangplank barrels. We saw Impact with his Shen into Gangplank, just stomping on the barrels, getting it every time. But previously, I liked your point on Turtle. This is a guy who is one of the most veteran players that we have still in the LCS. Such a long career. You know, even from the long days on TSM, where he started out joining the LCS, coming in and taking Chaox's position. For FlyQuest, he has played the utility marksman role so incredibly well. His Senna skill shots finding their way, you know, critically to Zven for a lot of these plays, poking people out, as you're saying. Solo does get ganked, though.
Solo having to use the flash there to escape as Blaber shows up to help Licorice out. Summoner spell expended as Solo will drop a ward in the brush. Blaber's just backing on top of that, doesn't really care. At least Solo knows that he's gone now and can go back to getting shot by these Qs over and over again.
And bottom side, Santorin went for a pass. If you looked at the mini-map during that time, seeing Blaber on top side, he went for a pass on a bottom side gank and was unable to you know, get any summers out. But
Zven with the flash over the wall. This is going to be a battle. It's IgNar looking for a potential play there onto Nisqy. And now FlyQuest is walking everybody away. Santorin calls down the lightning, but he's not going to find any sort of a target here just yet. Flash still ready to go to get him out of this one. Exhaust used by Cloud9. IgNar with the flash over the wall to keep himself alive. Lots of summoner spells being used by both sides here.
Yep, this is where all chat is just now, or not all chat, team chat is filled with
probably not all chat.
cooldowns. Probably not all chat, and you'll see you're trying to tilt them, and you're like, haha, you know, Nisqy, no flash, Zven, no flash, got you. It definitely is a strategic attempt there if you're trying to play the mental game sometimes. But on that invade, you know, Santorin and IgNar's flashes traded for the two carry flashes there in Nisqy and Zven, in addition to the exhaust. Going down, as well as the heals, so a lot of timing now for these cooldowns to track for both sides. It would be possible for Santorin to try and punish Nisqy, because down on that roam, now having no flash, no heal on Zoe, and Malzahar, you know, with the setup with the ultimates, it's definitely possible to chain that CC for a big punish. Nisqy does switch over to Barrier, though, with his Summoner Spellbook, so he's not left completely out to dry.
Yeah, and when we talk about suppression champions and we talk about the QSS tags, the thing that's important to remember is most players will not prioritize QSS over their first item. Usually, even when you have to pay your taxes, you're getting your first item completed. You're going for that Luden's Echo or whatever it is you want to go for. Zoe almost always picks the Echo. And then after that, then you can look for the QSS, which means up until that first item is done, there is a window open for PowerOfEvil and Santorin to try to make those plays, go for the point-and-click sure thing, and pick up some free money.
I like watching the little exchanges here in the Shen Gangplank matchup that we've come to know and love in the top side.
A staple.
The split seconds between Solo putting up the Spirit's Refuge to get the block off on the right timing. You can see when Licorice kind of walks at him to fake and make him second guess when he's going to fire it off. And then obviously trying to dash out of the barrel chain when he's not close enough to kill the first barrel. But Blaber has returned for the camp.
Here again.
Set it up.
Oop. There you go. There's your dash away from the barrel. Blaber jumps in, looking for a move. Here we go. There's your kick flash. The ulti called down from the Gangplank, but Santorin's joining up in the fight. He's only level 5. The Volibear's not in good shape. He's already used the flash earlier. Stand United's got to be used now by the Shen to keep Santorin alive. The critical difference between level 6 and level 5 on the junglers really showing up here.
Yeah, that was too much from Santorin. He showed up, hey, I'm here for the counter gank, and it seemed like, you know, wanted to participate more, but Solo had already gained the distance under the tower, and Santorin going for the little trade there is a big punish. Now Stand United, first Stand United, burned here for FlyQuest without any proactive use. It's just a defensive one up at the turret to keep the jungler alive, who had just kind of arrived for, you know, reinforcements to make sure the dive doesn't go off. So Cloud9, I think will be very happy with that. As you mentioned, you know, the difference in level 5 to level 6 is basically one of the biggest breakpoints in the game. You know, ultimate ability, obvious.
Right.
And C9, now this is going to be so much different for them as they don't have to worry about that global. Plus Blaber, with the level lead for jungle, can actually play his Blaber style, trying to force something without having to worry about, you know, top lane extra global coming through.
Yeah, if the Volibear had an ulti there in that fight, things would have been very different. He would have got the extra health, had so much more burst down onto the Lee Sin. Things could have told a very different story. Generally, unless you're playing something like I don't know, Udyr, level 5 to level 6.
Hey, I play really that champ, bro.
Okay, well look, man,
like
if you're playing Udyr, your level 6 is the least of your worries, because then you're also still stuck playing Udyr.
Caveat: I actually don't play that champ anymore.
I was gonna say I haven't seen you play Udyr in forever. If I knew you actually played him, I wouldn't talk smack about him. But I haven't seen you play him. The last time I talked to you, you were on some Olaf grind.
That's true. I had to chat up. He's a little bit more powerful. Dragon being taken here by Cloud9, or excuse me, by FlyQuest. Attempted steal from Cloud9 with the Ezreal ultimate over the top. But I like the move. You know, obviously it's an Ezreal Yuumi bottom lane on tier.
Okay, Solo finding Blaber here yet again. Blaber is paying so much attention to this top side of the map. He's going to get a solo kill onto Solo here. Doesn't end up being a solo kill after all. The Sleepy Trouble Bubble from Nisqy will make sure he gets assist money, and everything's working out there for Cloud9. Blaber finally getting that kill.
Yeah, Nisqy had already predicted and cut off the escape with the bubble over the wall here. And Blaber still follows with the Q, make sure that he gets the kill. So the flashless now top laner as well. I mean, what a punish here. The control ward up in the brush is why Blaber was able to use that blast cone so effectively. They see Solo going for these, honey fruit in the river. Nisqy had predicted the flash over the top already, but Blaber also able to finish that one off and secure the kill for himself. He's definitely going for a cleaver with a double ruby crystals here.
Yep, buddy. Yes, sir.
So no lethality rush, which is definitely not recommended when you're facing a bunch of tanks like he is.
No, absolutely not. Black Cleaver, I think, is 100% the right play here on the Lee Sin. And honestly, Cloud9 have themselves a nice little gold lead here early on, almost up to 1,000 gold, getting the money plus extra assist thanks to Nisqy landing that trouble bubble onto the Shen right before he died.
It's honestly big, you know. It's team extra 50% gold on that kill.
Yeah, it's 200 more gold than you would have otherwise got, as Solo's in some trouble yet again. Cloud9 is just focusing this man over and over. That tent emote, 100% honest. There is no tilt in that whatsoever, because it is true. Blaber went down to the sporting goods shop. He found the nicest tent he could find, probably got some s'mores material, some mosquito repellent, everything he needs to go on a wilderness excursion, and my man has been camping since the start of the game.
Yeah, it seems like Solo's going to have much of fun in this game. And we said in game number 1, Flowers, they're going to keep picking it. Well, Stand United comes in.
Stand United trying to make the play here. Nice. Gets the taunt onto Nisqy, and Solo gets himself on the board. He is tired of being picked on. He is the one now picking on others.
Yeah, I mean, showing the reason that you picked the Shen. But we said in game number 1, they're going to keep blind picking Shen until someone is able to effectively and demonstrably destroy it, punish it. And this is really the first time where we have had a big enough difference to actually cause that reaction. So maybe we'll see it if it does extend it this series and Cloud9 are able to push it to the game 5, changing up in the end here. But this is what you generally kind of are looking for in that sort of punish. And Blaber sticking to his guns on the top side. Those repeated ganks finding Cloud9 the advantage. With Rift Herald picked up and used to just burn right through that first turret. All turret plates acquired on the top side. And it has caused Cloud9 to take a beating in their bottom turret. You know, when you leave the Ezreal Yuumi early stages of your lane phase, it's already going to be weak, and you show your jungler top, that's the obvious place for FlyQuest to attack, and they've done so just to a lesser degree.
13 minutes of 2,000 gold lead. Well, I guess it's closer to 1,500 gold. I don't want to over-embellish things here, but still, good lead early on for Cloud9. So much of it being there for Licorice in that top side, the farm advantages that Gangplank has just from being Gangplank, and then 2 kills on Blaber's Lee Sin as well, staying ahead of his opponent in the Volibear, making sure he's going to be relevant as this game moves forward, as we get into the mid games and some bigger fights. In the previous game where we saw the Volibear versus Lee Sin matchup back in game number 2, we saw Blaber just get exploded in a couple of the mid game fights because he wasn't far enough ahead into his own build to make sure that he didn't just get one shot. So very important for him to maintain these advantages here as FlyQuest tries to back away. Gangplank ulti is summoned up. Sleepy Trouble Bubble not going to find the mark here. PowerOfEvil with the ulti down onto the enemy jungler. You cannot outplay the point and click. Zven running away. He's going to go over the wall probably, but Solo is right here waiting. Taunt over the wall looking for the kill. Zven is gone. Santorin's chasing down the cat. PowerOfEvil will fall to Licorice. Vulcan trying to stay alive. He's ulting all on his lonesome. That cat is on the run. He's homeward bound, but he's going down. Nisqy and Licorice, the last 2 men standing. Solo trying to keep these guys in place while the rest of the team comes around. FlyQuest will not get these last 2 kills, but they will win that fight.
What a huge turn there for FlyQuest, setting them up to continue stacking dragons. This was during the discrepancy in globals from the top side. Gangplank Ultimate was up and Stand United was on cooldown. That's why Cloud9 make the call to force, but the teleport coming in from Solo, PowerOfEvil making the call to turn right back around on Blaber. As you were just talking about the previous instances where Blaber got CC chained down from 100% to 0, guess what? They actually layer all of the CC. They're even overlapping. That was 4 different forms. That was Malzahar suppression, then IgNar into charm knockup, and Santorin used the Q stun from Volibear. So they annihilate Blaber. Then they corral themselves into the back of the Dragon Pit. Heal trying to come over the back of the wall there. And Santorin chasing through the top side to finish up the other kill. Just kind of break Cloud9. After the early numbers at Zven, they're able to get from 100% to 0ing Blaber. Good chase down from them as they collapse from all sides, and the teleport did come in.
That to me felt like a I haven't played against Malzahar in a year type of play, where you forget how much range that ultimate has and how easy it is to find yourself just stuck as you're suppressed and unable to escape. Total damage dealt to champions in last fight. That is indeed a big ol' 0, as Blaber was never able to do a single thing before he found himself killed in that fight. That ends up making it so FlyQuest is able to take the victory, and this game is another close one, Kobe.
Yeah. And yeah, I can definitely see or theorize how and why that kind of call comes up as we're talking about, you know, oh, Stand United was just used on their kill on Nisqy. We got to punish them. But the Malzahar ultimate came back up quicker, and they're able to get it. Here we go, root onto him.
Okay, but the suppression down onto Zven, keeping him controlled, and FlyQuest finds the kill onto the enemy AD carry. Now the shields are coming out from IgNar, keeping PowerOfEvil alive, and just like in previous games, PowerOfEvil proves so hard to actually kill. Cloud9 will find their AD carry dead here again, but they will get the tier 1 turret in the bottom lane.
FlyQuest stand united once again, rallying around their mid laner, keeping PowerOfEvil alive. Solo, the shield is up, the shield is used, and they defend. They get the counter kill here. Obviously, we saw on screen the split push continued for Licorice. He just opted to use his ult to try and help with the attempted kill instead of actually joining with a teleport. So he keeps his teleport cooldown, takes the bottom tower for C9. And though they do still have their gold lead, these continued attempted looks for C9 being turned around on them by answers from FlyQuest are really taking their toll. And with FlyQuest stacking up the dragons while some of these kills are being given back over, does start to be an area of concern.
Right. FlyQuest have forced out their first QSS of the game. That one is built by Nisqy, already completed along with the Hextech GLP. You can see Black Cleaver now online for Blaber's Lee Sin. I expect him to probably be going for a QSS before too much longer as well. Otherwise, every time he gets close, he'll just instantly die. And you can see the Null Magic Mantle in Zven's inventory will also probably be going for a QSS here pretty soon. Yuumi doesn't have to worry about it because she should always be attached to somebody else. And Gangplank, of course, has his oranges to get out of trouble. So those other three, though, are going to need to make sure those taxes are filed away.
Yep, I mean, looks like it'll be the case. Rift does leash control words in the back, so FlyQuest, they do have full vision, but you see this little timer on the Stand United for solo. Unless they're able to actually delay, wouldn't expect them to fight over second Herald. It's not nearly as big a deal since turret plate reward isn't on the map, so it's not easily as instant gold reward.
Yeah. Good objective pickup there from Cloud9, being able to take advantage of that window where Solo's ultimate was not yet ready to go here. Again, Solo doing a pretty good job keeping up in farm compared to Licorice. He's not even down by 20 CS, where in previous games he could have been down by up to 50. So making sure to keep this one a little bit closer. Of course, having the 2 kills on him does put that extra money in his pocket to make him less afraid of Gangplank just beating the snot out of him over and over again, allows him to have a little bit more presence, stand up a little bit straighter in that lane, and tell Gangplank, no, go away. I'm going to farm up these minions. You can farm up your minions. We'll have a gentleman's agreement. And Santorin on the Volibear too, man. 3-0-1. Things were, I was a little bit concerned when we saw in the top lane that 2v2 where he almost got killed at level 5. I was thinking, oh no, is this going to turn into like the first Volibear game where Santorin's overestimating his own strength? But 3-0-1 on the champ here so far, having a good showing.
Yeah, and even with the nerf to the move speed on Q, he's rushed the boots of swiftness here for the extra speed in combat. Works as well for him, so still can provide that engage they're looking for with the Volibear. Dragon number 3 racked up for FlyQuest once again, and it's kind of part of the reason that people have been very questionable of Cloud9's focus on the Ezreal Yuumi, because the bottom lane can get punished really early while the Ezreal Yuumi is scaling up. You give over a lot of the early dragons. That's also because FlyQuest have, mostly used really good Shen Stand Uniteds and Shen teleports from solo, but now they're on Soul Point at only 20 minutes into the game. And of course, Infernal Soul really does supplement a lot of the kind of missing damage maybe that you'll have on FlyQuest. They're very tank heavy and kind of supportish style heavy champions here.
Right.
So if they get the Infernal Soul, that will add some damage to the mix, allow them a bit easier of a time. From C9's perspective, they need to have multiple threats because there's so much CC on the side of FlyQuest. While someone is getting focused, the other members need to do their jobs in putting out that threat. And with the QSSs up, they should be able to do that. Even though Ezreal got delayed really far in the build, when Zven can get to his Sheen item completion, that threat will also be there. It's just been heavily delayed because he's down in lane and had to stop off for the QSS.
Shelly summoned up in the mid lane. Considering the mid lane tier 1 turret only has a quarter of its health left and only WildTurtle is here right now, should be no problem for Cloud9 to be able to use this Rift Herald to successfully take that one down. FlyQuest would like to prevent Shelly from getting a second charge here onto this tier 2 if possible. A little bit of burst and the smite should be able to stop it. There it is. Turtle will pick up a couple of free souls from that one. And Cloud9 go up to 3 turrets to 1 in the overall count of those objectives. But the objective I'm mostly looking at, Mr. Kobe, is the fact that that Infernal Soul is just 3 minutes away unless Cloud9 has something to say about it. And I think your assessment of things is 100% correct. Having that extra burst on this team that doesn't necessarily have some champions that are clocking in at a 9 out of 10 on the damage scale will be so important for them being able to close this game out against Cloud9, and C9's got to know that too. They've got to be respecting that. QSS now completed on to Blaber, so PowerOfEvil's job has become more difficult. It's all about trying to facilitate that QSS being used from some other kind of CC. Have IgNar go in, have Turtle land some kind of a snare, get a taunt from the Shen, make the QSS be forced for something else, and then use your skill button. Then press R on enemy player and secure 300 gold.
All right, in preparation for the Dragon, we need to go over lane assignments as they are going to be really important in the setup for both teams here. Cloud9, they have to find a way to answer the extra pressure for Solo. Since he's got Stand United and Teleport available, FlyQuest has a very easy time with already existing control wards in the river, giving them a very easy time of getting the deeper vision and getting the easy setup around the Dragon. Them being the ones with Malzahar ult plus a bunch of CC they can chain on top of it. IgNar's Rakan going to be one of the big ones. Means that when you get that setup, it's so difficult for C9 to actually face check in, and they're going to have to be very quick with their QSSs. That they do have 3, because they're definitely going to have to use them in this Dragon fight. So C9 have correctly sent Licorice up to the top side to try and get it pushing into the Shen first, because they know time is going to be a very valuable commodity for them, and they need to make a quick push.
Yeah, so important. The difference in seconds could be the difference in a good play and a bad play here for either of these teams. Still less than 2,000 gold separating them, with a slight edge going towards Cloud9. But remember that across their team, they've had to invest about 4,000 gold in QSSs. So that's always something that's very important to take note of when you're comparing gold in games where one side has to pay heed to those suppressions and being able to avoid them. As you can see a little bit of skill shots being thrown out here, but honestly not a lot of damage connecting. PowerOfEvil did just lose his passive spell shield there. You mentioned that in Champion Select, how there's a lot of things that can pop that as IgNar's going in. Here comes some damage coming out as Blaber has to try to escape now. IgNar using the stasis to keep himself alive. Stand United also going to be showing up there onto PowerOfEvil. And that's
number
all
2.
she wrote. The QSSs have been used on jungler and mid from the side of Cloud9. PowerOfEvil used his ultimate. Solo and IgNar also used their own. Turtle and Santorin still have ultis ready to go. Blaber also has his, but Licorice, that GP ultimate, that big teamfight spell, is not available moving forward here, as PowerOfEvil has used his teleport to rejoin the fray. Cloud9 going after the Drake, starting things up. This is how this team likes to play. They don't want to sit around and wait. They don't want to do a dance for it. They want to force the issue and make FlyQuest respond.
They need
Santorin still with that ulti ready to go here on the Volibear. Does FlyQuest try to 50-50 this? Blaber is still in the Drake pit. FlyQuest is still going in. Solo's after the taunts. Nisqy's running away. Blaber still on the Infernal Drake. Now he's going in, looking to make the kick. He's able to find it onto PowerOfEvil, who flashes over the wall. Blaber's going to be the first kill of the fight, and IgNar's going to join him. It's a 1-for-1 here so far. Cloud9 with low health bars having to run themselves away. Turtle walks a little bit too close. Nearly eats the damage from that barrel. Down to 1/3 HP here on the Senna. Solo over the wall, trying to clear away some of this vision, trying to get back now and reposition himself. If he goes back to base, he does have teleport to rejoin the fight. Remember, Cloud9 has no jungler. Santorin has his flash and his smite ready to go. Zven is still trying to contest this. Nisqy is still trying to contest this. PowerOfEvil has the ulti, and PowerOfEvil makes sure it happens. Sven's cut down. Turtle grabs the kill, and Solo is once again hunting down the cat. The Dragon is secured by FlyQuest. Santorin will likely die here as the cost. That's a pretty big shutdown. Solo still chasing after Vulcan, needs a little bit more damage, but will not catch him. The Yuumi lives to see another day. The elusive loot pinata manages to walk out of a dire situation. Licorice, he finds the barrel slow onto Solo. It's Solo and IgNar trying to find the kill onto the Cloud9 top laner, but they will not do so. The flash gets Licorice out, he will live, but the big story of this whole fight is that's Infernal Soul for FlyQuest.
And I'm still questioning why it was Cloud9 that started up this Dragon. They're the team. They have to poke. They have Ezreal, Yuumi, Zoe. It's FlyQuest that want the hard engage. So when C9 are on the Dragon, FlyQuest get to do the hard engage. They dive right into the back. Blaber then, since he was in the Dragon pit, had to go for the angle to kick back PowerOfEvil, who then FlyQuest are able to have double flashes over the back. So the early kills going in their favor and getting the kill onto Blaber means there is no threat on this Dragon for a smite fight for Cloud9. Then they re-damage it and get it low here. Nisqy going for the play forward on Zoe, gets immediately locked up by PowerOfEvil, and Santorin can flash forward to finish him off. The saving grace for Cloud9 to get something off the backside of it is Licorice's teleport to come back in. He cleans up some kills for themselves, but Santorin is able to smite that low health dragon before it all takes place. Those Malzahar voidlings, as well as the disease that he was going to put on it, take it down and get it low enough for him to finish it off.
The malefic visions?
Yeah.
The Malzahar disease, where he shows up and makes it so you gotta go to the
purple
doctor.
stuff all over you.
The purple stuff that makes you buy the QSS. All right, well, FlyQuest are feeling good now with that Infernal Soul locked down. It is still a Cloud9 gold advantage here. 3 big items completed on Licorice's Gangplank. Has the Trinity Force, the Essence Reaver, and the Liandry's. Remember that the Liandry's damage amplification is not just magic damage. It is all damage your champion does. If you're in Twitch chat and your solo queue rating is silver 4 and you're typing KEKW at the Liandry's, read what the item does. I guarantee you, tooltips are there to help you, and you've got to properly understand why this item is built. It makes the ulti so powerful because being in the ulti range is going to slow you down. The burn will do so much damage because it's based on your health. Doesn't matter if you have AP ratios. And that 10% damage ramp means a lot when you have big 1,000 damage barrels showing up.
All right. Well, FlyQuest packing the Infernal Soul for themselves. Looking at one more victory to get them their guaranteed spot at Worlds. It would be the organization's first appearance at Worlds. This would be huge for them if they can make it happen. Level 16 now on PowerOfEvil with the Malzahar, and the triple item power spike is so big for him. You know, Deathcap coming in on top, you know, of the Ludens and Liandry's is going to be a big teamfight presence. And now with the Soul at their backs, they can just set up around Baron, plenty of wards, and look for the engage. IgNar has the faith that with a Stand United on his back, he can go for a very deep flank.
Oh, Zven, that is not the person that you can afford to lose at the beginning of the fight here, but now they're going to be able to turn things around, and PowerOfEvil is down. IgNar likely going to be killed off now as well. Blaber with the Sonic Wave making the play, and Blaber manages to take down the enemy support. Cloud9 have lost their AD carry, but they've killed 2 from FlyQuest. Licorice and Nisqy are still alive, and boy, do they deal a lot of damage. WildTurtle nearly killed off instantly there as FlyQuest have to retreat.
Yeah, Cloud9 are pretty good at chasing down here. They have lost the Ezreal, but they're still able to poke down and force FlyQuest back underneath their turret. They should take the opportunity to try and kill some of these control wards that they've laid down and set up around Baron, because you need to take the advantage on Summoner's Rift, transition it into some sort of vision for yourself. There's no reason for FlyQuest not to pull another setup very quickly. 1 minute and 25 seconds left on the Elder Dragon as well, which is a little bit less dangerous of a setup for you to try and pull off. So they can transition over to that area. Scuttlecrab being there as well will give them that guaranteed vision.
This game is so damn close. It could go either way so easily. Cloud9 would love to take us to a Game 5, earn that world spot for themselves. Especially, think back, man. Think back to spring, to the fact that Cloud9 was the only team that mattered in LCS in spring. I know it was Cloud9 and 9 other dudes who happened to be hanging out in the same building. And
yeah,
then,
it was not close. Just
no comparison
dominating
at all. And then now in summer, it was looking that same way for the first half, and then all of a sudden, they flew too close to the sun, the wings melted, turns out they're human after all, and this team would love to be able to say, yeah, we're the first North American team going to Worlds by winning this series here today. But FlyQuest have proved to be absolutely worthy opponents going up against them here, making Cloud9 work for it, meeting them on the field of how aggressive they want to play the game, of how well they work together as a team. And honestly, this series has been a lot of fun to watch.
Definitely has, and we're not done yet. FlyQuest with the setup on the Elder. They've got the Infernal. They've got the wards leading up. You can see through this red quadrant of the jungle. IgNar going for the flank.
Okay, This is huge. Elder Drake demands a team fight. It is the sacrifice before the god of neutral objectives, as Cloud9 do not want to allow FlyQuest to just take this one away for free. FlyQuest with that Infernal Soul will be able to potentially make some burst damage happen. Santorin's going in, trying to use the ulti to buffer away from the Zoe sleep. Licorice on the front line. IgNar's likely going to be killed off here. Blaber goes in. Instead, he's going to be the one to die. Everybody from FlyQuest still alive. Licorice at 1/4 HP. Sleepy Trouble Bubble down onto PowerOfEvil. Nisqy also below half, trying to get himself away. Solo has returned to the front lines here yet again on this Shen, making so much happen, being the meatball for FlyQuest. Elder Drake at 2/3 HP. It is the jungler dead yet again on Cloud9. There is no 50-50. There is no smite contest. It would have to be a Zoe, but it's not going to be anything. It's a kill onto the Elder Drake. It's a kill onto Zven. How?
They've done it. Goodness. They've done it, Flowers. Elder Dragon picked up for FlyQuest. They killed Zven again. QSS up. FlyQuest will take the Elder Dragon. They will take the Baron. And they've got the trifecta for the second time in this series.
Oh my goodness. 1-5-1 on Zven's Ezreal. I have to be critical of how he's played these past couple of games. The Ezreal was looking pretty mean earlier, but his positioning has just got him caught time and time again. You can see here, Santorin started this fight, initiating on Zven.
And then that IgNar plus solo flank with the Rakan and Shen to the back lines. They're able to follow up on it. Then Blaber going in with IgNar back to the rest of FlyQuest. They're able to focus fire and take down the jungler. As you said, without the smite here, again for one of these critical objective fights then, FlyQuest with multiple re-engages, solo blocking a Zoe follow-up on that bubble that they did get past towards PowerOfEvil was also very big, protecting his carry because that would have been one of the only openings. Zven gets tagged by that Senna snare again. WildTurtle sets it up. This man has consistently landed those Senna W's onto Zven's Ezreal over and over in this series. Happened again. They take him down, and you definitely know they are going to hear it, especially since Cloud9 have been so stubborn with their champ select, focusing so heavily on the Ezreal Yuumi. Now FlyQuest, though, they get to take their victory parade down the mid lane of Summoner's Rift.
Let's put the brakes on the parade. They still have to kill the Nexus. I don't know if it's time for the fanfare and fireworks here just yet. It's still a 3,000 gold game. Cloud9 still have inhibitor turrets standing, and of course, as soon as I say it, the bottom one just falls apart. And FlyQuest are pushing into the C9 base. Massive minion wave in the bottom lane, doing work onto the inhib. FlyQuest playing this patiently, trying to make sure they're not overcommitting to anything here, giving Cloud9 the opportunity to go in and make a play. Keep your eyes on Blaber. He's got his flash ready to go. He's got his kick ready to go. If they initiate at all, I fully expect it to be off of him. Cloud9's team does not have initiation tools besides a flash kick from Blaber. What is Gangplank going to do? What is Zoe going to do? What is Ezreal or the Cat going to do? These are not initiator champions, and it's very difficult for Cloud9 to start things on their own terms. Santorin there on the front line here, making sure he's the one soaking the skill shots, not giving Lee Sin a path into the back line. WildTurtle escaping away from that paddle star that was headed towards him, not too worried about that. One inhibitor remains. FlyQuest, if they take this one down, they doom Cloud9 to an eternity of super minions flowing into this base. Well, more like 5 minutes, but that feels like an eternity. In those kinds of situations, man, it feels so bad. Cloud9 have 1.5 Nexus turrets remaining. Cloud9 are one team fight away from going to the loser's bracket. FlyQuest are this close to qualifying for Worlds. Nexus turret number 1 is gone. Cloud9 must make their defense here. WildTurtle could be the target. IgNar goes into the ulti, but Cloud9 disengaged well enough that IgNar does not want to overcommit underneath that remaining turret. All 11 turrets on the Cloud9 side have disintegrated. It is the Nexus and the Nexus alone standing in the C9 base. As FlyQuest's Baron buff wears off, they are now looking to continue the push in their natural state.
ready to go for the Nexus itself. Here comes your team fight. Zven's barely kept alive after the ulti comes through from the Senna. FlyQuest will focus the Nexus, and FlyQuest are your first North American team going to Worlds 2020.
Congratulations to all of the players, to the organization. FlyQuest's first appearance at Worlds will be 2020. Man, these players have worked so hard for it too. This is one of the teams that over the last couple of years has made such a big turnaround. Just look at Solo.
That is such a genuine expression of joy from that man. And you know what, Kobe? He deserves it. As more than anybody, he had to play Shen into GP and just get smacked upside the head every single game. And he did exactly what he needed to do. He stood united at the right times. He frontlined properly for his team. And all of FlyQuest, I am impressed with how these guys played today, and they deserve that victory that they earned.
Solo wasn't even on an academy team until FlyQuest picked him up.
Yeah.
And now he's going to Worlds with this team. What a story it has been. I mean, it's so much with just the rebrand of the entire organization as well. They've done great on social. They've done great in the game, in the LCS. You know, happy to see the hard work really rewarded.
And man, you know, after a series like this, there's going to be some turtles out there getting saved from the donations they're going to be making for these wins. You love to see it. FlyQuest showing up with a 3-1 victory over Cloud9. The one game that they lost was, again, sort of just like a wacky random throw in the Drake pit that then turned into a very swift win for Cloud9. Almost all of the games were super close throughout. FlyQuest and Cloud9 just going blow for blow. And it was FlyQuest that managed to outperform Cloud9, win in the team fights, pick Zven over and over and over again. And when you've got a guy with a Yuumi, all of a sudden, two people are now out of position. So now Yuumi's got to just cut bait and run, try to find her way onto somebody else. Ezreal gets picked, and FlyQuest just figured out how to get it done time and time again.
Yep, definitely props to them. Excited to see as they progress through the playoffs as well, because as much focus and as big of a reward is a guaranteed spot at Worlds, you don't want to stop there. Your eyes should always be on the #1 spot. The goal here is to win the split for this team, just as it is for Team Liquid, for the rest of the teams that are still in playoffs. Everybody's still looking at the trophy.
Well, one last congratulations from us to FlyQuest. Congratulations being the first North American team to qualify for Worlds. Now that it's all wrapped up, we are going to take a break. We're throwing a commercial right now, but once we come back, we will hear from PowerOfEvil in your Verizon post-game interview. You don't want to miss that. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the LCS. With a 3-1 victory against Cloud9, FlyQuest become your first LCS team to be going to the World Championship. A first for the franchise at that. I'm ecstatic to be here with the mid laner, PoE, PowerOfEvil. You brought it here today. It's your first time attending Worlds since joining North America. What's racing through your brain at the moment?
I don't know. I'm actually just speechless. I'm so emotional right now. We screamed our hearts out at the final, like Nexus fight, siege, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Every game was just, we were just fighting. We were screaming at each other, like to, like, calm down, guys. Like, we need to focus. And I don't know. I'm still in shock.
Yeah, let's talk about some of that energy throughout the series, because prior to this, FlyQuest had never swiped a win off of Cloud9, and members from Cloud9 had even declared FlyQuest predictable. But I don't think anyone could have predicted how explosive this series was, level 1 invades included. So what was the difference for FlyQuest, preparation or otherwise, that allowed this to be such a scrappy series?
Well, I think even so, a lot of people said us not screaming or not looking forward, like we didn't scrim C9 because we didn't want to show any strats, we didn't want to show any picks, and I really think that helped us, and I think that really helped us like going into the game really confident, because if you would like scrim them, you know, like sometimes there's a mental block then on stage. So we went in completely prepared, like confident in ourselves. We legit told ourselves, like, guys, we have nothing to lose. We're gonna try out everything. Like, we invade level 1, we flip the games if we need to, and I feel like the first game gave us so much confidence. Me and Lucas, we got like the first kill on Blaber, invaded their blue buff. I just dropped some minions, and I feel like we were just like one hive mind and just one team, and I'm really proud of them.
We've talked so much about how important confidence is when you're playing in the playoffs. And I think for you specifically, you're such a focal point for FlyQuest. And because of that, many teams, Cloud9 included, have called out the fact that they have you as a high priority target when playing against Fly. How does that influence the way that you approach the game, knowing that you're going to be targeted by the enemy?
Well, you need to have I would say, a quite big champion pool. So you need to be ready to like have, I would say, like be a little more deeper in your pocket, you know, like if they ban like the normal Asia or Oriana, which did the series, like you need to be ready for like other champions and other picks. And I feel like we are at a point where we have a lot of options, and I normally try to prepare like 3-4 picks against every champion that they can play. So I'm always ready, and I'm not like afraid going to the draft, like, oh, what if they ban these two? And then I'm like, damn, we didn't practice that, right? So I think that's the main thing and the main focal point in scrims.
That idea, being ready, adapting to the patch, has been such a key in multiple series so far within the playoffs. How important do you think it is for FlyQuest to continue refining that adaptability, considering that it's also an important aspect when performing at Worlds?
Well, I'm someone who always thought that having a big champion pool, like having different item builds to every situation, is really important. And I'm someone who's not afraid of trying out item builds and new champions. I did that already before, and I can admit if it's sometimes it doesn't work out, right? But sometimes it's insane, and it can draw bans, and it can draw like it can really shift the matchups. And I think that's a huge thing, and especially in best of fives.
Mm-hmm. And especially speaking of matchups, as you just mentioned, Solo had said in his last interview that this matchup against Cloud9 was actually the one you all feared most, considering them the strongest team. But now that you have defeated what you consider the juggernauts, you do have the rest of playoffs ahead of you. How are you feeling going into that, having World secured, but either Golden Guardians or Team Liquid on the horizon?
Well, honestly, we are so relieved. I'm pretty sure all of us are so relieved that we qualified for Worlds. That is just insane. And now it's kind of like the cherry on the top. We're going to try to get it all. We're going to try to take it all and win it all. And hopefully we can do it. And hopefully we can prove all the people wrong throughout the whole split and the whole season. I feel like teams always, or even players, like I saw their tweets, right, saying like, oh, FlyQuest going to lose here, like FlyQuest going to lose today, right? And it just feels so great to like prove them all wrong and prove them wrong, that we are like a great team. And I'm pretty sure like every one of us is like top 2 in their position, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, you do have all of that coming in the future, but you do also have something tremendous to celebrate here today. I'll let you get to that. PowerOfEvil, thank you for stopping by, and congratulations again to you and the rest of the team.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. It is clear skies for Fly in their quest to make it to the World Championship. For more on how they had that deserved victory, let's go ahead and head over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Licorice. Clear skies is right. Clear skies all the way to China and the World Championship for our very first North American team to qualify through in 3-1 surprising fashion over Cloud9 today. FlyQuest have done it.
And looked pretty dominant, too, during the series. I think that, they won basically every early game. They had great objective control. They were able to win team fights, great drafts as well. It was a pretty, clean win, all things considered, despite how long the series was with the pauses and whatnot.
I'm just so impressed with FlyQuest as an org overall. Just a year or two ago, they were known for a candy bar. Now they're actually known for helping the environment, all these initiatives, great branding, and they're actually a really competitive team. I'm really impressed.
We laugh, but I know that it is an actual, a point of pride for that organization. I spoke to Trisha this week on the queue, and that turnaround for them from, internet meme of a team to being one of the top competitors in this region in just the course of a year, and is just an incredible accomplishment. And to do it against a team like this, the team that they fell 3-0 to in the spring finals, the team that they themselves considered to be the juggernaut in the league, I cannot think of a more affirming way to come away with a victory, probably.
Oh yeah, the way that they also did it in a 4-game series, they didn't even have to go to 5 games. They only dropped 1 match against Cloud9 after being 7-0'd by them for the entire year. This was a stylistic mismatch, we said at the top of the day, but the way that they changed their drafts each game and they started to match the early game aggression, again, a big criticism we had against FlyQuest coming into the split was how slow they were and they needed to learn to adapt. They've gotten more aggressive and they've gotten better drafts, and they're actually taking, Cloud9 in the early game, being able to beat them and also being able to close in the later games.
Exactly. Now, Mark, they brought the FlyQuest, brought the heat in the first 3 games of the series today. But Game 4, interestingly enough, kind of had the flip side story where it was C9, Blaber, and Licorice off to a hot start.
Yeah, I think I was finally waiting, for when C9 going to win an early game and what's that going to look like. And this was the game where finally Blaber got a buff level 1. It finally happened. And he was able to make... It was hard to get. He finally got his own buff. And with that, he was able to make some big plays, especially around the top lane. Him and Licorice comboed together to get some monstrous advantages. You see nearly 1,000 gold up for each of them at 15, as well as being able to get the Rift Herald. They dropped that in the top lane, and they did a great job controlling the top side of the map. And I thought, with this early game, maybe C9 is going to have a chance to actually get back into this game.
Yeah, this makes you think you might see the the beginnings of the C9 that went 9-0 in the first half of the summer split. But of course, for every good play that Blaber was making on one side of the map, probably it seemed like Santorin had an answer.
Yeah, I mean, this was the first time Blaber got to actually play the game, so this looked like pretty scary for FlyQuest, especially because they had such an early game draft. But as the game progressed, I'm thinking this is going to be worse and worse for FlyQuest, but they started making plays early on. This was the first Shen port that they made successfully, and this honestly came at 10 minutes or so. So at this point, I'm still kind of worried for FlyQuest. So I was really looking for, they can't just make 1 play or 2 plays to make it work. They have to keep making plays to get back into this game because their scaling wasn't that great.
And that's one of the things I think is the biggest takeaway for me in the series. The Ezreal looked great for Zven. A lot of times he was one of the biggest threats for the enemy team. But it took so long to be able to play around the bot side. And all these plays that went in FlyQuest's favor showed their control down there, using the Shen Malzahar combo, as well as the Senna being able to ult whoever's held in place by the Malzahar. It's a really great pick comp that they used very well, and that allowed them to snowball objectives. And this Dragon meta, it cannot be understated. You need to be able to fight from minute 1, because the win condition is, well, control the first 3 Drakes, and then you have to keep team fighting us over and over and over again. And that's what FlyQuest used to offset some of that stuff that was going well in the top lane for C9.
I actually really like the Malzahar as well here out of PoE. It's so different from what he normally plays, but it's your potentially last game, right? You're trying to just take a win whenever you can get it, and it's something that teams don't necessarily practice against, and often it's viewed as a lesser mid lane champion, and that you're picking something that's a point and click, not a lot of skill to display on it, but it's exactly what you want against somebody that's wanting to go in, and you want to have early game power before those QSSs come online. So I really thought that this was cool to see, and it's the second time we've seen in the series where PoE can bust out these last picks that actually have a ton of value. The Kog'Maw against DG, here the Malzahar, and I believe this was actually the very last fight where we're doing a little bit of a dance with Cloud9 trying to kite away, use their spells of Zoe and Ezreal to poke out, but the Senna sustain comes in clutch, and then Solo goes in for an engage, and they're just fed up with the poke and want to
May not
fight.
be the moment where the Nexus falls, but in a lot of ways it's where the game ends.
And I think the important thing here is to know how many strategic options FlyQuest has here. They think they have a nice flank, so they try and get the kill, but they also could have just stayed on the dragon and forced a 50-50 smite. And the risk-reward is so lopsided in FlyQuest's favor. If they win the smite, they get soul, game potentially over. If they lose that 50-50, FlyQuest gets their first dragon. Or excuse me, C9 gets their first dragon. It's not the end of the world. And so by controlling the Drakes early, you position yourself to have such lopsided rewards in these kind of 50-50-ish moments. And so even here with this elongated dragon bit dance, you know, C9 can't afford to back off, because if you lose this dragon, the game could be over, and it forces this action, keeps this pressure on C9 before FlyQuest had gotten outscaled like we thought was going to happen. And then once they have this Drake, you have a permanent advantage over their enemy team.
I love it there, too. Both top laners had the same idea of the base and TP back into the fight, but executed by FlyQuest a little better. Sorry, Prawley. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just going to kind of echo what Mark is saying, because Cloud9's composition with the Yuumi, Ezreal, Zoe, like, they have heals, they have poke. They want to keep a fight going for a really long time. But the issue is they had to start the Drake, because if they didn't, like, you know, Mark is saying, FlyQuest can just burn it down. So this kind of position you put yourself into, even though your comp outscales, even though it has a win condition, which is to poke and sustain, you can't really execute your win condition, because now you're pushed into this narrow kind of corridor where you're sitting there going like, we have to take this Drake now, or we can't outscale them anymore.
So what I want to do from here is zoom out a little bit and figure out why it was that FlyQuest was so successful in this series against Cloud9 when the expectation was exactly the opposite. We had 2 predictions for 3-1 Cloud9. We had 1 prediction for 3-2 Cloud9, but the general consensus was that this team would win. And instead, Crumbs, we get 3-1 the other direction. So why?
Well, it felt like Cloud9 was very set in their ways in what they thought was strong. 4 games of Ezreal Yuumi. They let Shen go through 4 times. Not that Shen is a super high priority, but definitely rising up there. A lot of teams are picking him up. So it felt like C9 are still struggling to figure out what champions work for them. They only figured out that Ezreal and Yuumi was something that worked for them, but it's not what is currently played by the majority of teams across the world, because so much of it revolves around playing to bottom lane early. They're not doing that, and that's where FlyQuest struck. They had Santorin to play the early game well, a mid laner that could never be abused from Nisqy versus PoE, so there were never the options that Cloud9 normally had. So bit of draft, bit of gameplay, bit of unluck with the meta.
I'd say the other thing, too, is that FlyQuest absolutely manhandled Blaber throughout this series. There's the one good game, but they took what was the reigning MVP and put him in the trash can through the first 3 games. Look at that difference through games 1 through 3, off the back of super smart level 1s and continually punishing him. Down thousands of golden experience in these games, not being able to get to lanes and affect them, always being on the back foot compared to Santorin, which means also objective control for FlyQuest. And the one game where he finally is able to, you know, have a good game in game 4 is the one that we're talking about where, well, guess what? You're giving up dragons on the other side of the map. So FlyQuest had such a great game plan to deal with Blaber and make sure he never got ahead, which is where he likes playing from.
And I think the best part about FlyQuest's game plan is, like, when I look at Cloud9 and I'm like, I need to defeat Blaber. I'm thinking, like, all right, I'm going to pick, you know, Lee Sin, LeBlanc. I'm going to pick a really strong mid-jungle 2v2. I would not think I'm going to 24/7 invade level 1 with a stronger, like, composition and take his buff and just set him behind individually. Because usually we talk about Blaber and Nisqy as a unit. We very rarely talk about them individualistically. So this is kind of one of the strategies I was really happy FlyQuest did, because it was not one that I would have gone into a game going. So seeing it kind of executed really well and seeing how awful those Blaber stats are when it's, like, not necessarily all his fault. It's just FlyQuest just hard focused him.
Right, exactly. It takes a very special kind of performance in order to reduce a defending MVP to statistics like that you just saw. And when it came to FlyQuest earning their first ever spot at Worlds for the organization, the player of the series will go to none other than Santorin. The man charged was handling Blaber in the jungle.
Such a good jungler. I mean, it's unbelievable how he fell from grace, if you will, in the time in TSM, rebuilt himself, and is now back at the top as a definitely S-tier jungler, the most consistent out of all. I mean, I can only think of 2 plays in this entire season where I felt like, okay, Santorin, that wasn't that good. And one of them was the Volibear running it down bottom lane game 2. That was it. And he quickly recovered it, right? So, like, this guy does not make many mistakes from the jungle. And if he does, they're minor, which is so useful for the team because they know they have somebody that they can count on.
Diffie and the Jiffy?
I was about to say, would you go so far as to say this was the Diffie and the Jiffy? One
Big
just
Diffie.
might. But I also think we need to recognize, though, while Santorin did put up an incredible individual performance, that this was very much a team effort. And so with that, I do want to take one more look at the moment where FlyQuest realizes the dream of going to Worlds. All 5 players on your screen here. Yes, we're in the remote era. Yes, they aren't there to be able to jump, hug, and share that moment in person together, but you can still see the excitement on those faces, specifically for some of these players like Solo. Look at that, man. He deserves this so much.
Guess which one had never been to Worlds before of these 5 people?
Exactly.
If you guess Solo based off this reaction right now, you would be correct. But
yes.
It's actually an incredible story for all of them. It's actually a bunch of little pods who all used to play together. The last time that Turtle made Worlds was 5 years ago with Santorin on TSM 2015 Worlds. That was so long ago.
That's the last time for both of them, exactly.
Right, and then IgNar and PoE, the last time they had been to Worlds was 2017, also together on Misfits. It's been 3 years for them, so it's an insane story for this team. So many old guard players coming back together, reinventing themselves, bringing Solo along for the ride. I mean, Solo obviously earned his keep. I don't mean to say they carried him, but it's really cool to see.
If anything, Solo stepped up and is a major reason why this team is succeeding. Again, let's recall that this team came into form in spring with his addition to the roster. You heard the casters calling out the man wasn't even on an academy roster prior to that point, and now he's booking a trip to Worlds. The redemption arcs for a number of these players. PowerOfEvil faced criticism after criticism for his move to North America. Oh, you're leaving the region that has the better shot at giving you winning chances on the international stage. Well, he's done it. He's brought a team to Worlds. WildTurtle gets redemption after leaving TSM. Solo's back in the lineup. IgNar returning to the world stage where he made himself famous with the Fervor Leonas. I could not be more excited about the first team that we qualified in because of the way in which they did it.
Yeah, I can't believe you remember that, the Fervor Leona. I'm just getting flashbacks of how close those 2v2s in the bottom lane were and how he definitely made his namesake then.
Exactly.
In China,
exactly.
The Worlds, too.
All right, let's pull up the bracket because while one team has qualified, there's still plenty of LCS postseason to go. FlyQuest have proceeded through the winner's bracket while Cloud9 will have to fight back through the lower bracket as they face off against Evil Geniuses on Saturday. So already, gents, we were thinking things going to chalk. We're going to get some rematches of our first rounds, FlyQuest versus Evil Geniuses. Not the case at all. EG, Cloud9 in just 2 days. Thoughts?
There's a world where Cloud9 doesn't make worlds here, Dash, and that is a scary world.
I don't know. That's it. That is a scary world, Crumbs. What kind of world is that?
Well, EG has already beaten Cloud9 in the regular season, right? So they already know how to defeat C9. FlyQuest just showed you even more how you could punish Blaber. They just need to take some of that level 1 invade, apply it here, and then if Cloud9 doesn't react quickly, they're in some hot water.
Yeah, probably a little scary for a team to take a loss like this and only have 2 days to kind of address, what went wrong and how do we fix it? How do we turn it around to make sure we can at least finish top 3 and go to Worlds?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Golden Guardians TSM series, saying Golden Guardians has a blueprint to beat TSM, but Dignitas didn't show that. Hopefully, Evil Geniuses was watching this game closer and can copy some of what FlyQuest is doing. But one thing that I am noticing for this this series is the bot lane difference is a lot different in the EG bot lane, where they're also not playing Caitlyn, similar to how C9's bot lane is. And they're both playing Ezreal Yuumi, which is something that's contested. So it's really funny that this is such a different meta for both of these teams, and now they're facing off with, you won't pick Caitlyn, I won't either. So let's just not even ban it, not pick it.
It also puts a big spotlight on Sven Scarum for me because he actually had a fantastic series versus 100 Thieves, and he'll need to emulate that on some level, maybe not the full 16-kill Graves, but he'll be counted on to put Blaber behind because C9 looks like a totally different lineup when Blaber is set behind.
Quick hits tomorrow. We got Team Liquid, Golden Guardians. Again, I think everybody would have gone into tomorrow's series largely thinking TL is going to be favored, expected to be somewhat one-sided. How does today's series maybe, change the approach here and any trepidation people might have in being so certain that the top seed is going to win?
Changes it a lot for me. It really does, because it seems to be a trend that happens every time we get a long tournament bracket. Teams that just get to play more have a big advantage. And what you thought was an advantage from the seeding perspective because you were so close to winning might be a disadvantage in that you don't get to try out the champions that you have prepared for, and you don't really know how it reflects against what the enemy team is doing. I think Cloud9 faced some of that today. I wouldn't be surprised if Team Liquid faces that tomorrow. However, they have had a really good season when it comes to drafting, so I am a little bit more optimistic about them in that regard.
Waggy finger, Mark?
I waggy finger agree. Crumbs has a good point about, as well, like the trends. There was no point in the season where Team Liquid looked lost, and they've actually been getting better over the course of the split. In some ways, this loss, was in line with what was happening with C9. They've been
That's true.
falling worse and worse, and it was only a matter of time. Like FlyQuest was going to take a game off them eventually, and so FlyQuest had a great second half of the split. It's actually kind of in line with that, whereas Team Liquid is not struggling. They finished the season super strong, best regular season record they've ever had. So I don't think the learnings from this C9 series will quite apply to them.
All right, there you have it. That's going to do it for us on Thursday here in the LCS postseason. If you need more League of Legends action, make sure you stick around as we jump to the first Academy playoff semifinal. But that's going to do it for us here on the Analyst Desk. So now on behalf of myself, the casters, the entire remote broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more of the LCS playoffs. Good night. And congratulations, FlyQuest. Do us proud at Worlds, baby.